What is going on, RotoGrinders? Tonight we're talking Thursday night football. We got the Bucks. We got the Bears. Super exciting. Joining me today is Justin Carlucci, the Luch, with you for the next 45 minutes or so. We're jumping in early because we like to be on air while the contests haven't sold out just yet. We don't want to take you guys off the lock because, the contests have already sold out, I suppose. I guess you can kind of make adjusting your lineups on the fly. That said, is it the Luch? Is it Justin Carlucci? What do we call it? You have one of those cool ass names where you can make a name off of it. It doesn't work for me, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's hard to spell over the phone, so whenever I need to call customer service, it kind of stinks. But my DK username's been Justin Carlucci since the get-go. I wasn't very creative when I made it, but branded myself a little bit. When I joined RG as just a user, I made the Luch. I don't know why I did. But now I'm branded as the Luch. So here we are, Dean. It's a pleasure to finally get on a show with you. And we got the GOAT himself, Tom Brady, taking on Chicago, and Vegas thinks it's going to be a tighter, kind of lower scoring kind of game. And there's been a hell of a lot of news across the league this week with everything going on. But we're here to talk about Bears, Bucks, and a little bit of Showdown tonight.
Yeah, it looks like we're going to be getting another doubleheader on Monday night. The New England and Denver games get moved there, and I believe your Titans are going to play on Tuesday. At least that's what allegedly they got moved to. We shall see how that goes down. But hey, Justin, I'm not sure if you heard this before. This is daily fantasy sports. We don't care about tomorrow. We don't care about yesterday. We care about tonight and tonight only. And tonight we got to talk about the Bucks and the Bears. We got a bit of a surprise as far as the actives and inactives. Let's do a little throwback. Let's do some body parts. Let's do that. Sure, why not? Because a lot of guys for Tampa not suiting up. Chris Godwin, he's got a hamstring, so he can't play. LaShawn McCoy, he's got an old ankle. He can't play. O.J. Howard's out for the year, ACL. That's unfortunate. Justin Watson's out. Scotty Miller is going to give it a go, despite the fact he has a hip and a groin. Mike Evans expected to play. He's probable with his ankle. And we saw just a few minutes ago before we went live is Lenny Fournette. He's actually probable. Well, he's not on the inactive list. We assume he's going to be third in the depth chart. Well, how do we read this? I'm trying to see any sort of beat writers kind of getting some information. Of course, now in the era of COVID and less access, we don't really know what we can get as far as coaches' quotes as far as Fournette. But in my brain, slight ticks in the Tampa Bay guys, but I'm also not thinking Fournette's going to get 15, 20 carries. I'm guessing maybe emergency suit up. Thoughts?
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. That was my initial thoughts. That was probably a bit of surprise for everybody. I was checking out some of their beat guys earlier in the day, and one of their biggest beat writers for Tampa was pretty much adamant saying that only Keyshawn Vaughn and RJ3 were going to suit up tonight. So he could be an emergency body. I don't know. I mean, people are probably going to be scared of him unless there's some hard news of what's going to happen in about an hour or so. So I don't know. I mean, it's very possible. We know, like you said, we're talking about one game, 4 quarters. If they're on the 1 yard line, 2 yard line, a couple of times they bring Fournette in and he dumps 2 in. I mean, I don't know if it'll be optimal, but I mean, who knows? I mean, his ownership will probably be very low, and it would be really nice to get some clarity as we go along on the show and start to build and throw some ideas at. But yeah, that was definitely a wrench thrown in there. And Justin Watson was the guy I was looking at, thinking about yesterday, probably, guy who was on the field quite a bit last week. And with all the injuries, we didn't know if Mike Evans was going to play before about, half an hour ago or something like that. So he's off the table now too. So, we got a lot of moving parts right now. We even got a guy who, Tyler Johnson, not the NBA player. He's 200 on DK. And we saw last Thursday night, I don't know if you played any primetime team, but Lee Smith coming fresh off the practice squad. And Sam Darnold's like, this is my guy. I'm going to pepper him all night. So we'll see.
Let's give a shout out to Tuttle. I think Tuttle was all over him. I was not. I was on other players that weren't very good that played for the Jets, unfortunately.
Not many of them are good.
Typically, and this is anecdotal, but in my brain, Thursday night games tend to be kind of sort of plotting. It's hard to recover from games. It's even harder for the road team. Tampa Bay, 3.5 point favorites right now, 44.5 total. Totals have been up this year for what it's worth. This is a low number. If you put it against the entire slate this week, it's probably the lowest number on the board, or one of the lowest numbers on the board. What do you got to paint a story, right? You got to build, your lineup has to tell a narrative. First of all, how do you run out? You running out one? Are you a single entry guy, a 150, somewhere in the middle?
I've made my money playing 3 max or single entry type stuff, but for Showdown, these big prize pools get my eyes big. I see 400K to first. I can make some unique teams, So, there's a lot of talk on Twitter and across the industry this week, and a lot of our guys were chiming in that it's not always about playing the right plays for that day. This is sport. There's variance, there's luck, and sometimes you need to play those ceiling guys. And Showdown is one of the few times where you have freedom to get super creative, right? I mean, we've seen some crazy stuff, win a lot of money, the first 4 weeks of the year, a lot of money left on the table. This is another night where you can definitely leave money on the table for sure, Dean. I mean, I know sometimes on like main slates that gives people anxiety and stuff like that, but what are your thoughts on showdowns? I mean, how is there a range that you're comfortable with, or does it kind of vary based on who's playing?
Okay, I'm not going to pass myself off as a showdown expert. I just dabble and I don't do a lot of research. I mean, I look at the RG stuff mostly and just kind of like build 5 lineups or something like that. Today, I knew I was in the show, so I've come prepared. And I've been making some money in basketball too. The showdown basketball has been good times for me as well, and of course, basketball. More predictive than football. It's more of football is an event sport. Trying to predict touchdowns is hard, and it's just percentages and taking stands and things like that. And if a guy scores, doesn't score, basically then decide if they get the value, if they don't get the value. But for me, I have a hard time. I have this sort of cash game brain which I have to run away from. And today specifically, I think it's a good day to do so. It's really obvious what the quote unquote like right build is, what the right plays are in this slate. But I don't think anything's like a great play. It's just that they're there and you have the money and it's the best play amongst a slew of bad plays and you have the salary and you can't do anything left over with it. But I also think the pivots are pretty clear too. So I think this is an awesome slate to play tournaments. I think it's an awesome slate to be different because, Evans and the money, it's so obvious where the money's going to go. Brady, obviously, there's no quote unquote smash play. And these defenses, especially the Tampa defense, is really good. Second best defense DVOA against the rush. Fourth best defense DVOA against the pass. The Chicago defense is pretty middle of the road. They've been good against the pass. They're 5th DVOA. They're 16th against the rush. But we talked about how banged up this Tampa offense is. They're on the road. They're on a short week. They just want to get through it, right? They just want to get past this week. So we'll talk about the pivots in a second. And I'm trying to think how ambitious I want to be, like how much I'm willing to leave on the table, because I think this is a week where I can talk myself into leaving 3 or 4K on the table, because I think the pivots are pretty clear. And we'll discuss that. And the Fournette thing, I'm looking at the chat right now on YouTube. What up, YouTube? Like and subscribe. We do appreciate that. Hey, you're going to be showing off some tools, some of the RG stuff here. If you guys want to use those tools at your own leisure, click that link. Our fabulous multitasking producer, D-Train, Devin's going to be all over it. Going to drop a link for you guys to get $5 off, 5 spackers off your first month here at RG for the Core 4 Premium. So go ahead and check that out. And yeah, do subscribe. We do appreciate that. It helps us beat the analytics, however that works there on the old YouTube. But captain. Or let me before we dive in as far as captain, what do you think this game's going to happen? Ideally, I think it's going to be kind of a snoozer. I think it's going to be like a 20 to 13 kind of game. Like in my brain, that's what it is, more or less.
Yeah. My brain is on the same wave as yours. So either we're going to be really right or really wrong, right? There's going to be some recency bias with Tom Brady throwing 5 tutties last week against a pretty good Chargers secondary. I just can't wrap my head around it. I just can't wrap my head around 4 touchdowns tonight from Brady. I don't know. So he's much different on DK. We spend a lot of time on DK on the show. Our boys Chop and the Chief did a great show earlier. I caught some of it.
That.
They were very headstrong about plugging Brady in at the MVP slot, rightfully so, because salary doesn't change on FanDuel, right? So you're talking raw points more times than not. But if this game's going to be close, and there might not be, might not be a George Kittle of last Sunday night showdown or Monday night, whenever it was, with a very huge gap in points scored, then right, you can really go in various directions here. So definitely showdown. You like to take stands and things like that. I think it'll be kind of more of a grinder game. I think there's some very unique individual matchups, across the board here too. And for me, I'm playing the $10 150 max 4 indicator first. I'm trying to be a little different. I'm trying to get leverage at a couple different captain spots. So just for that purpose, I'm probably not going to play a lot of Brady at captain, right? I'm not saying fade Brady by any means a captain, depending on what you're playing. If you're playing some cash games, throw some Brady in there. He's been on fire. But I can't see that happening. Historically, he's played pretty well at Soldier Field, but this is one day. Circumstances are often changing. He doesn't have O.J. Howard. He doesn't have Chris Godwin. Who really knows how healthy Mike Evans actually is, right? Like, he was a game-time decision for a reason. He's active. He's going to play. But, a ton of people got burned by Julio last weekend, too. And so
historically, Tom Brady hasn't been 43 years old either.
That is true. Historically, he's not. He only turned 43 once, man. So here we are, and I'm honestly going to be pretty light on Brady at the captain spot, and because I'm trying to be in the top 1-2%, because as we know in the industry, min cashing all the time doesn't give you long-term profit. So I'm going to be a little bit unique there and go a little bit light on Brady at captain myself.
I know people have done the research on it as well too, and of course quarterbacks, they have a nice floor, and they're going to be perfectly fine. They tend to land in the winning lineups a lot, but as far as the captain, they don't tend to be the top scorer as often as you would imagine. And if they are, it's a quarterback that has legs, like an L-Jax, or like an Allen or somebody like that. And then Brady's, he's got legs, but not football legs. He's not going to run. He does that quarterback sneak every once in a while. I guess he still does that at age 43, the 4th and 1.
For some reason.
I don't know why he does that, but yeah, that was like the most successful play in the history of the Patriots the last 20 years or so. See some questions in the chat. So people are seriously, if this is actually a thing, if this is moving the needle as far as Fournette being in, people are actually deliberating Fournette versus Jones. In my brain, like Jones seems like a much more clear, better play. And unless you're playing the ownership game, if like people are just already Fournette out. But are people actually going to consider Fournette? He's 6'2" on DK, and I'll concede I play more on DK than I do on FanDuel. And that contest you're talking about, it, I'm in 10. I got 10 bullets there in DK, and I'll hand build them after the show. Hopefully you can cover FanDuel more. I made some FanDuel lineups as well too, just kind of dabbling. But yeah, if people were actually going to play Fournette, that hurts any sort of leverage he might bring. And I think it's certainly plausible he gets 0 snaps. Like maybe he's just dressing in case.
No, you make a really good point, and it'd be nice to get some more clarity on that. Like we said earlier, Bruce Arians threw us for a loop, right? Ronald Jones significantly outtouched Fournette week 1, and we're like, okay, maybe he's learned the playbook or whatever. Maybe not. Maybe RJ's the guy, right? They drafted him for a reason. And then week 2, you've been up to date with the NFL. Fournette comes out, and I think he outtouched him week 2, right? So we weren't really sure how they're going to play this thing. And they had little Sean McCoy hanging around. He's out, thankfully. But then they draft this kid, Keyshawn Vaughn, to come in and maybe eventually be the guy too. So a guy who I'm pretty interested in tonight, regardless of, if you think Fournette's not going to play quite a bit, Vaughn he played like 23% of the snaps last week. So we just need some more clarity on this right now. It's hard to really put your finger on. I'm with you. I think he's more of an emergency guy, because really, how can you go into an NFL game with only 2 running backs suited up? It just doesn't work.
Well, the Carolina Panthers will this week. But yeah, and a fullback. I think that's the plan as of right now. But if you're going to trust Donald Jenowitz here in our chat, they're saying in the local news, and I assume the local news would be Tampa, is suggesting that Fournette's only going to be used in case Jones or Vaughn gets hurt. That's my guess as well, too. Mm-hmm. But again, just a pure guess. I'm not passing it off like I know, but that just is sort of what makes sense to me. Like, why would you, you're at the quarter pole of the season. It's a long season. Tampa Bay theoretically has, dreams of the Super Bowl. They think Fournette is still something. Like, why run him to the ground, in a midweek game? They're number 1 in their division currently right now. It doesn't make a lot of sense to give him the ball a ton, and that sort of makes sense to me as well. So I'm not playing Fournette, for the record. He's not going to crack my lineup. And you mentioned, we talked about Jones, and Jones dropped several passes last week. He looked good in the box score, but, he's getting a lot of usage, and we talk about running backs not mattering. It's all about opportunity. That's mostly what it's about, but you got to get on the field. And we saw there was a moment where Vaughn kicked him off the field, and I think he was in the field in the comeback. He caught like a 1 or 2-yard touchdown, and he's super, super cheap. And that's, there's so many cheap plays that I think it's so easy. That's my problem. It's like, it's so easy to get Brady. It's so easy to get Foles. It's so easy to get Montgomery. It's so easy to get Allen Robinson, because we'll talk about the cheapies in a second. But one of the big cheapies, I think, is Vaughn at 1K. You've got to imagine he's going to get some third down work, if nothing else. And if Jones goes out there and fumbles, and we've seen him have some goofy moments, and we've seen some we have not seen clarity from week to week as far as what you're talking about, as far as that Tampa Bay running game. It wouldn't shock me if Vaughn all of a sudden supersedes in mid-game. And that's all we need. It's just this game. That's all we care about.
Yeah, and they drafted this kid. They're very high on him, and they went to camp his rookie year, and they came out bluntly and literally said he can't catch, so we can't put him on the field. So I remember his rookie season, he really didn't play a lot. So he's still seeing the same issues. He did see 9 targets last week, though. That's not sustainable. But Brady has been throwing around, kind of plotting around the line of scrimmage a lot so far this season. So I kind of get it. A lot of short stuff. Just kind of off the top of my head here, I do like Scotty Miller quite a bit tonight. I like the leverage you can get with him at captain on DK. I love the kind of break in salary as well. Obviously, he's going to play quite a bit without Godwin.
That's the tricky thing. Not to cut you off, but like this is the stuff we're not man. This is what we're not privy to. We're not privy to how healthy is Evans really. Is he just out there as a diversion tactic? And you can ask the same question about Scotty Miller. He's got 2 body parts. He's got a hip and a groin. I guess he's fine enough to suit up. And would Evans even be playing if Godwin was available and Howard was available? I don't know. Just questions that are worth asking. And that's why I don't really want to go like all in on Scotty Miller or all in on Evans. And Miller's been really solid. He has a nice ADOT as well too, and he should see plenty of opportunity. With the injury to Howard, and the injury to the receivers, it would make sense. Tampa is super stacked at tight end. You think they're going to run? What is it? The 12 defense? The 12 offense. I should know when you're in 2 tight ends. I should know this. I'm not a coordinator or anything, but you know what I'm talking about. You roll there with two tight ends. Gronk and Brate. They're talking about Brate in the chat, and Gronk's just not running routes, right? Like he's blocking. You get points for pancakes. As far as I know, they don't give you points for pancakes. So. Yeah, well, talking about the tight ends, Gronk and Brate. You are on mute, by the way, for the record. So you're talking to yourself. Justin? You are currently on mute right now? Oh, okay. All right. I saw his mouth moving before, and I'm like, I don't know if he's on mute or if he's like coughing, or I'm not really sure what's going on. But yeah, in theory, I'm supposed to like Gronk, and I think you're back with me, right, Justin? I hear something in my ear.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
All right, that's weird. I'm not on mute. Anyway, I gotta love technology. I live in the middle of nowhere. There's horse and buggies on my roads where I live. So like the hamster in the wheel is my internet connection. You have to bear with me.
Pennsylvania? Where are you at?
Yeah, I'm in Pennsylvania. I'm about an hour and a half north of Philly. Right outside of Kutztown. So yeah, a little bit of culture shock.
Represent.
Yeah.
I don't know, but represent it anyway. I don't know.
Not much going on here. A lot of fields, a lot of flat ground, a lot of good food, which is why I look the way I do. Put on a lot of quarantine weight. But anyway, now that you're here with me, the thing is about Gronk is, and I love Gronk, primetime Gronk. Here we are, but he's quote unquote been healthy the whole year and just has not been contributing. So I know he might run a little more, right? And Cameron Brate's pretty much and I like Cameron Brate. I'm a big Brate guy. Just kind of a red zone guy. Are their roles going to have to expand, or are they going to throw guys like Tyler Johnson in the mix more, maybe utilize Keyshawn Vaughn, flank him out a little bit, and Bruce Arians likes getting creative? I'm not sure that like the tight ends are going to be super much more involved. I could be wrong, but what has Gronk shown in 2020? Nothing. He's been on no injury reports really for the most part the last couple of weeks that I'm aware of, anything serious. So I'm not big on Gronk tonight. It's not like he's dirt cheap either.
Well, you can tell yourself a story, and you can say, there's people out there saying, well, Gronk is washed. Why did he even come back? It's Thursday Night Football. Everybody's watching, all around the league. And, Brady's his boy. Those guys are, Brady can throw multiple guys. You can tell yourself this story.
The best friend story, right? They're best friends.
Let's show the country that Gronk is still a thing. But like you said, last week he was in the field for 86% of the snaps. Before that, 93% of the snaps. Like he's out there. He's not running a ton of routes. He's a good blocker, apparently. And Brate is barely getting on the field. But, of course, now with Howard out, they would have to, get some more Brate. And like you said, they're more of red zone targets, I would imagine, which kind of makes sense. And that's kind of the same conversation for Jimmy Graham on the other side. I was talking to Devin about Graham before the show. And which one of these tight ends is going to score a touchdown is basically what we're trying. That's the game we're playing. So which one's going to score a touchdown? You tell me. You have the almanac.
I can't tell you. Maybe none of them do. I don't know. I mean, it's a tough game. It's a tough game, and we'll start maybe talking and building some mock builds here, showing our RG tools and our optimizer momentarily here for you guys. But there's some cool matchups tonight, right? Like Allen Robinson is going to see quite a bit of Jamil Dean, and he's pretty underrated for Tampa Bay in the secondary there. I'm pretty sure he graded out like top 5 corners in the league after week 8 last year or something like that. He runs a 4.3. He's got like a 40-inch vert. I mean, Allen Robinson is one of the purest route runners in the league, but I'm excited to kind of watch this matchup between these two guys. Okay, let's talk Bears side of the ball.
Let me ask you this, though.
Okay.
Are you a big cornerback, wide receiver matchup guy? I think it's something. I don't think it's nothing. But then when it's like a single game, like, who else am I going to play?
Right.
You can make that argument.
I weigh it on main slates. I weigh it. Not crazy, but especially when you have guys that move around quite a bit, right? Robinson does move around a lot, and and Dean is pretty much like a right side of the field guy. So it's not crazy, but it's going to be a fun matchup for the time when they kind of see each other. He's one of the most athletic corners in the league, and I mean Tampa's D has been pretty formidable. It just goes to show you how bad the terrible spots Jameis Winston really put that team in terms of time on the field and field position last year, because really they're pretty formidable, the Tampa Bay defense. And depending on what kind of imaginary script you're building in your head, if you like Ronald Jones, the captain, I mean, I'll definitely have some shares of Tampa defense if that's kind of the script you're building in those types of lineups. If you think it's going to be kind of a real slobber knocker, ugly, fairly low scoring, go Ronald Jones, pair him with Tampa's D. Maybe you don't go Nick Foles. Maybe you grab, one of their skill guys and kind of think maybe Foles throws a touchdown at most or something like that. And maybe you play a kicker. Like, this game could be pretty ugly. I think
you mentioned the skill guy, Montgomery, right? Montgomery, that backfield essentially has with Cohen out 85% of the snaps last week. And I talked about it's a terrible, terrible matchup here against Tampa, but this is the only thing we have to deal with. There's no other games. There's no alternatives. And, volume trumps everything. Volume and opportunity trumps everything for me. And he should get a ton of volume. He should get a ton of opportunity. So Montgomery is perfectly fine. I don't love the matchup. And also I have the salary because of the aforementioned Tyler Johnson, because of the aforementioned Keyshawn Vaughn. I like Darnell Mooney. He's one of my favorite potential like game breakers in the slate. And I was trying to mess around like throwing him in the captain. And the problem, if you want to call it a problem, of putting Mooney in the captain is I have nowhere else to spend my money. But, again, I have to suck it up and say, okay, I'm just going to swallow the $3K and, take a shot. And he's got a nice ADOT. If you're a playerprofiler.com guy, I was digging these players earlier today. Tyler Johnson, his player profiler comp is Corey Davis from your Texans. Wow. And Darnell Mooney, who appears to be, it seems like he superseded Anthony Miller, at least as of the last couple of weeks. And also Nick Foles has thrown the ball to him a ton as well too. So maybe they have something going on. So he ran a 4.38 40 in college. His comp is Paul Richardson, who did kind of flaked out. Or did he have an injury at Washington? I'm not sure what his story was, but he was once upon a time, he was thought to be, a pretty premium talent. But nice ADOT, lots of targets. If you're talking about Robinson having a tough matchup, theoretically, Mooney looks like a nice pivot off of him. He's one of my favorite plays in the slate, which is just like, that kind of speaks to the slate, I suppose.
Right. And Robinson, I don't think they're going to shadow him just statistically looking at where Dean is lined up. But I'm not super worried about it, because if you like volume and you like opportunity, then Robinson's going to be your guy. And if you like the crazy narratives, Nick Foles beat Tom Brady in the Super Bowl, but like what Nick Foles do you envision?
I forgot about that. Yeah.
What Nick Foles do you see we get? He comes in relief as he always does against Atlanta, who's a hot mess, and has a great game. And then he was terrible last week against the Colts, who are a very underrated defense in their own right. So just talk to me about Nick Foles, and then maybe we'll kind of knock through some of our favorite captains and just show some of the newer viewers how this RG tool really work.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I'm enthused about Nick Foles, but at the same time, it's not really it's not costing me anything to get him. It's not very hard to get him. It's just the nature of the slate, the nature of this one game. I'm going to have some. I'm not excited about it, but like he's probably going to be in the top 5 in terms of like scores. I'd imagine. I'm probably not going to have much of him in captain. Like that's probably not going to happen. I'm much more likely to have Robinson in captain, or much more likely to be ambitious at Mooney in captain. He's probably like the 4th option for captain as far as the Chicago side. If you want to be goofy and super ambitious, the double dips on the floor. It's on the table with CPAT, like Cordell Patterson and Chicago defense. So I don't really, we think it's to be a defensive game, and It's hard to predict 1 or 2 goofy plays, but like if 2 defensive touchdowns happen, or if 1, run back happens, and Patterson's going to get some touches on offense. Again, 1 game slate, you want to be goofy, and this is not something you do in a 100-man contest. This is something you do in the biggest contest, the biggest fields. You want to, if it actually happens, you want to get paid off for it actually happens. You don't want 100-to-1 odds. You want the much bigger odds than that. There's a bunch of questions loading up in a second. Do you want to knock out some of these questions in chat, or do you want to build a quote unquote optimal lineup?
We can do some questions, and then we can build an optimal lineup if you want. I'll bring up the lineup preview on my screen just for something. If you're playing higher stakes or single entry or 3 max, we'll try to run through kind of a couple, maybe 1 or 2 different kind of builds that we think are good scripts for tonight. But what kind of questions do we got here rolling in, Dean?
All right, I'm scrolling up here on YouTube. Again, feel free to like and subscribe. And if you all aren't aware, of course, we have tons of stuff on the YouTube channel, and we're live Sunday for 3 hours, starting at 10 o'clock in the morning, 10:10. I'm getting all technical. I rounded up in 3 hours. You all know what I mean. We take you guys all the way up the lock. All right, just talk about Brate. Brate's going to score at least one touchdown. That's ambitious. He certainly can.
Then you better be overweight on him if you're a believer.
Yeah, I mean, do you have a thought as far as Brate right now? I'm mostly indifferent. If it's like I like a lineup and that's the only thing I have left salary wise, I suppose I wouldn't play him with Gronk.
Oh no, I wouldn't play him with Gronk, and that's a beautiful feature of our awesome tools. You can kind of put build rules in, and as you can see, I was messing around here, but you can put Gronk and Brate together and say play 0 to 1 of these guys, so you don't have any lineups with both of them, which is great. But I'm with you. I'm indifferent. I'm kind of indifferent about Jimmy Graham as well. It was peppered with targets in the Falcons game. The Falcons are atrocious. He had 5 targets last week. They're all pretty late in the game though, so I don't know really what his rapport is going to be with Foles. So I'm kind of not crazy about – I'm really not crazy about any of these tight ends tonight. Like, I'm just indifferent. Like, I'll probably try to match the field. And if they kill me, they kill me. I'm just going to be completely average on them, I think, in terms of my builds.
Yeah, I mean, Graham's just been lucky for touchdowns. Like, I suppose he can get another touchdown, but I'm not going to be overweight on like 34-year-old Jimmy Graham. Like, if he gets a couple touchdowns, so be it. I'll move on to the next slate, dust myself off. With Fournette in, is Vaughn worth it at all? I think Vaughn is still plenty worth it at 1K. Are you on board with that?
I totally agree. And I think we are both kind of playing the script that he might just be an emergency kind of guy, right? So I still like Vaughn, and if anything, that might hurt his ownership, and drop it a little bit, which is some more leverage. So I might even try to increase some Vaughn shares after lock here in my flex, and maybe sneak a captain or two in there. I don't know. We'll see. On these showdown slates, sometimes you can play running backs together, and it's grimy, and it doesn't feel good whatsoever. But every now and then you get an Aaron Jones, Jamal Williams situation, right?
Yeah, we did that last week.
To contribute, yeah. So it happens. I'm not saying it's my favorite build, but I like Keyshawn. I'm bullish on Keyshawn Vaughn, as they say in the stock world. So I'm keeping him around.
Scotty Miller or Ronald Jones? I'm taking a peek at our ownership stuff, and I'm assuming this is on DK. I just kind of interpret it that way. If it's FanDuel, I apologize. So Scotty Miller, Ronald Jones currently, according to our ownership stuff. Now, this gets revised the closer we get to lock and the more information that comes in. It is fluid. But as of right now, Jones has the highest ownership percentage projected at 72%. On DK specifically, we're seeing Scotty Miller at 27%. So if you're just playing the ownership game, I suppose it's Scotty Miller. But I feel a little bit better about Jones. What we talked about, there is a scenario. I think there's a scenario where Jones loses some touches.
I agree. And it's tough to say this player X or player Y in the DFS world because it's contest dependent, it's lineup dependent. Like, what's the rest of your lineup? So there's just certain guys that don't correlate well together. So it's tough. It's tough to say. Is Brady your captain? Then you probably want Scotty Miller, right? If you're playing in a GPP with 600 billion entries, then you probably want Scotty Miller. But yeah, if you're playing double ups or something with 10 people, then Ronald Jones is probably your safe bet.
Yeah, I mean, the book says to do A, but I'm going to do B. It's like a weird answer, but like I'm doing B because most people are doing A. But the smart thing is to do A. But I know that, and I'm going to be playing one scenario outcomes. It's really tricky as far as how to explain that, but context matters, I suppose.
I like that.
Yeah. All right, same sort of question there. Go ahead. Let's go ahead and build a lineup. Fire it up. There are some rules on DK where I think you can't show one or two of your final pieces. I don't know if that's just for the full regular slate. Devin, if you can tell me in my ear, if you can let us know. Leave one spot. All right, we'll leave one spot to the imagination. It's like, ooh, I wonder who we're leaving at 1K.
Who could that be? But yeah, all right. So just run me through it. Let me hear. Like, I know you've been doing a lot of research today. You say you're not a showdown master, but I'm kind of thinking otherwise because you're coming in here speaking about DVOAs and things like that. I'm impressed. I like where your head's at. So
I was taking it, man.
Tell me what's your favorite script for tonight? Like who is your captain? Gun to head, single entry. Who are you putting in the captain?
My favorite script is to have significantly more Mooney than the field and to have significantly more Vaughn in the field. And I think Tyler Johnson's an interesting dart. He's going to be running. Like he'll be running as the wide receiver 3, but right. I would guess that Evans and Miller, both coming in banged up, would not be out there for every single snap. So I would think that Johnson gets a reasonable amount of reps. They would also run 3 wide receiver sets when they're not doing the 2 tight ends out there. So I think Johnson's going to get plenty of opportunity at $200. Yeah. So I'm going to have more than, I mean, I don't know let's see, what is he currently projected at as far as our ownership? Because I would imagine people are on this. I don't know. See, our ownership has him low. We have Tyler Johnson super low. That's also probably because
8.9%.
You don't need all this savings because Mooney gives you savings, and I think he's an interesting play. And the savings you're getting from Vaughn, who I imagine we have projected pretty high. Yeah, we got Vaughn at a reasonable ownership projection as well too. We're also not spending up, for Cooper and Zeke. It's just these teams here. There's no studs. And
Right.
This is what we've been handed.
A bunch of has-been tight ends on this one. But okay, so you like those two guys, right? If you kind of use those as your base, can I plug them in at flex and kind of see where we are? Is that those kind of
sure.
Thoughts? Okay.
Yeah, but the problem is I'm going to probably get to a quote unquote like chalky build, so I think one of the big decision points is figuring out or deciding, and this will be like it's a fork in the road because I'm going to have some lineups with, some lineups without. What you're doing with Mike Evans. Like I feel Allen Robinson safer, but I feel like Mike Evans is a higher ceiling. Is that a reasonable take?
Oh, it's very reasonable. We've just seen some weird volatility out of Mike Evans. First player in NFL history to have 2 catches for 2 yards and 2 touchdowns. It's like a Madden stream simulation, right? So I don't know. And, you look at the size advantage, but I get it. Mike Evans pretty much has a size advantage every slate against any corner he's going up against. He's great, when he's healthy. Do we know there's a little bit of unknown there? Do we know how healthy he is? People are still going to play him because he's Mike Evans. He's the one of 3 household names between these two teams. But I'm with you. I mean, the guy could be 75% and still muscle his way to having 6 for 90 and a touchdown in a blink of an eye, right? Not a big deal. So yeah, I mean, and another thing is, are you? I personally, in my opinion, I don't see like a 5-1 build kind of being the way to go. I'm thinking like maybe a 4-2 or 3-3, and
I don't see an onslaught. I don't think onslaught happens tonight.
Right. Yeah. So I'm thinking 4-2, 3-3. And then that's kind of the way to go. I'm with you. I like putting one of those quote unquote skill players at captain tonight. I'm not going Brady to be a little bit different in the bigger GPPs. Like I said, definitely not going Foles. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I know I'm in PA, probably gonna get a lot of heat for that. He's like, he's like second coming of I don't know. Anyway, but I'm going.
Here's the tricky thing. I just for fun, I threw in Johnson, Vaughn, and Mooney in the flex.
Okay.
And I have an insane amount of money left over.
Now, okay.
Let's put Mike Evans at the well. That's probably not Mike Evans because you already have too many. Let's put Robinson at our captain. We got 14.
Okay.
Change. So now we're just basically saying we're going to have 7,000 left over. So maybe you should have 2 of the 3, 2 of Johnson, Vaughn, and Mooney. That's what makes the most sense to me.
Yeah, no, that makes total sense. So I mean, if you're going to Robinson, right, you're going to go Foles, or is that your the flex too to kind of give yourself some more upside, or are we there? Is that what you're thinking?
Yeah, I just made that lineup, and we're looking at this will probably be one of the lineups to submit. They'll almost definitely be duplicated. And that's one of the reasons why I don't like a FanDuel as much as DK, because DK you're less likely to be duped just because there's more strategy as far as the captain. FanDuel, it's just like, well, who's going to score the most points? And there is some strategy in that because of 80% of the field thinks to be one guy, and you'll take somebody else that's projected for 2 or 3 less points. And then, yes, it makes sense to play those guys in the captain spot over there. But, I have Robinson at captain. Mm-hmm. I'm pairing him with Foles. We talked about Vaughn and the possibility of him at least getting enough to justify that salary at 1K. I like Mooney's upside. We have Tom Brady, and then you can see the salary left over, and it's like, well, that looks like a pretty obvious lineup to me. Like, I'm sure that'll be duplicated, but it makes sense. Like, that's a competent lineup for me. But what are your thoughts?
Yeah, no, it's interesting. And, Vaughn is a good receiving back. So, I mean, this is kind of like a backdoor way to see that script, and obviously not playing Mike Evans is very unique in its own right in a game, in a game where you have a team where you have 3 Tampa Bay guys on your roster. So I do like it. I do like where your head's at. I think that's definitely a build for a larger field GPP. And, I think it has serious upside, right? What's the sense of finishing in the top 50% in GPPs? GPPs just really took over the industry the last couple of years, right? I mean, I grinded cash games on my way up, and I was disciplined for quite some time, and there's just less cash available, like less cash games offered, right? Like double.
I'm finding it, but yeah, and also with optimizers and RG's to blame, RG and other places as well too. It's just like, it just becomes a 2v2 game sometimes, and which is I'm still doing all right in cash games, and like you, like I started playing cash games 8 years ago, and I started with like $150 or something. I was broke, and I did well on Draft Street. If you remember Draft Street, I don't know if you're that old school. Yeah. So I worked my way up through cash games, and now I've been dabbling much more. I had to transition because, like you say, it's not sexy. I mean, do you want to wager $10 tonight with the potential to win 18, or do you want to have the potential to win $400,000? Which is more fun?
Oh, of course, we want to roll the dice here. But yeah, it's like, okay, if I come in, 85th out of a bajillion people, like here's $30, right? So that's just where it is in the industry, right? You got to be in that very top percent. You got to get unique. So let's just I think there's ways you can be different with Ronald Jones at captain. If you think this is going to be an ugly game, so just for the sake of making a Ronald Jones team here, I mean, let's just say Ronald Jones, does his thing. It's kind of an ugly game. We both think this could be a grinder. We've seen a lot of work. He's going to play a lot, obviously. Played like 2/3 of the snaps last week. If we think Fournette's going to be a decoy, which we both kind of are thinking that's probably going to be the case. Plus, our local guy in the chat gave us the hookup. So, Donald, got a lot riding on you, but I'm just kidding. But thanks for the heads up. But, yeah, I mean, you could play, Jones and Tampa's D here, right? And I think the Bucs are projected to be at 24% owned, right? They've been pretty good. That's pretty high.
They're good defense. I played them way too much last week, where the dude for the Chargers just roasted him, and he looks legit. Which, by the way, worst kept secret is he's going to continue being the quarterback. Oh, really? You're not going back to Tyrod?
Breaking news, right? The 2020, Tyrod's getting stabbed in the chest, and to get Justin Herbert in the game, that
was wild for sure. But the chat is saying, I really wish that Fournette wasn't playing, and I think I like the fact he's playing, because I think this is throwing people off. I think it makes the other Tampa guys more interesting. And if we're right, again, this is assuming we're correct, and that Fournette is just like there in uniform only, and he'll get just as many snaps essentially as the two of us, outside of some kind of goofy, thing happening, injury, whatever. But maybe this will have people rostering Fournette. Maybe this will chase people away from Jones or chase people away from Vaughn. I hope that's the case.
Me too. I'm really curious to see these ownerships. Definitely for Vaughn too, right? I think you get some super leverage with him. And I think his role is going to be played 23% of snaps last week, 24%, I think. So what if he plays 35, And if this is an ugly game and they're going to see some more third downs, some 3rd and 5s, 3rd and 6s, you're going to see more Vaughn probably than Jones, right? So, and like you said, there's always
that. In the defenses. I don't mean to cut you off, but I'm curious how much. Because I have a hard time clicking the defensive button. It's just not a lot of fun. But you do get that early screenshot life, though, where you're crushing it right out the gate.
That flame next to the 10 points, right? So no, that's always an adrenaline rush. But I don't know I don't think we're going to see the good Foles either. And Foles has been super volatile. I don't know if there's anybody more volatile. When he went on that run with the Eagles, I've never seen anything like it. I mean, every throw the guy made, he looks like the second coming of Joe Montana. And then obviously regression. Of course. I get it. He's at home, but I don't see it. So let's just say it's an ugly game. Got Jones at captain. You want to play a little correlation. You have the Tampa defense. Maybe Foles struggles, but there could be some skill guys that have enough raw points to make these things happen. I think this is a good maybe 4-2 build. Maybe you play Scotty Miller here, right? Still have a decent amount of money left over. And let's just see what Brady at the flex would do here. And I know I got to leave one spot open on my screen here, but you got 76.5 left over for 2 spots. And, I want these two to be somebody on the Chicago side, but you like Mooney, right? And I like it. His targets are rising. Yeah. Nick Foles is throwing him the ball. So maybe they play some catch up, right? Maybe it's an uglier game. They're playing from behind. I think it's a very realistic possibility. You put Mooney in there and look at the money you have left over. 10-7. You can do whatever you want.
Ooh, I wonder who you can roster with 10-7. I can't imagine. The options are endless.
I wish I could tell you, Dean. I can't help you out here. But, I think this is a formidable 4-2 build here. Playing catch up. You think, you got two skill guys from Chicago without naming any names here. Do you need the quarterback? No, you don't need the quarterback. Not on one game. Anything could happen. But yeah, and you can even leave some money on the table, right? If there's a guy sitting here at 10,
maybe even just $100, maybe
just $100.
If that's something you want to do.
But yeah, I mean, you can even go down the list here in bigger field GPPs. Anthony Miller's there, and there's some other guys there. You mentioned Cordell Patterson. Cordell Patterson is like the Taysom Hill of Showdown for the Chicago Bears. Every time. My buddy texted me an hour ago, Cordell Patterson, ? With like 4 random emojis. I'm like, every time.
He'll get some rushes. Like he'll get,
What was it last week, Dean? I was very disappointed. I really thought we'd see a little more last week.
But again, the whole point, and like again, in large field tournaments, if I was making 150, I would have a pinch of Patterson. Sure, why not?
Yeah, absolutely.
And I'd consider correlating him with the Chicago defense, the potential double dip. If there's any questions in the chat, feel free to fire them out. Of course, we're going to step aside in just a few minutes here. I have to make some lineups. I don't know about yourself, but my lineups are not made just yet. They're kind of in my head, but I'm not there just yet as far as creating my lineups. But we wanted to jump on early while people are still signing up as far as what's going on. Let's see, Ronald. So Jones versus Montgomery.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's a tough one. I mean, volume wise,
Montgomery's volume seems safer.
Right. Agreed. Especially with this crazy late breaking Fournette situation. But upside, I lean Jones, right? That's my
opinion. Matchup is worse for Montgomery, like more volume, sure. Worse matchup.
You'll get more leverage at captain. If you want to run Montgomery captain, you'll definitely get a ton of leverage in that build for sure.
Okay. Sure. This is like when you end the show, right? They're asking about Ryan Nall.
How do we get out of here again? Where's the
I mean, look, it's Showdown and anything goofy can happen, I suppose. But as Ryan Nall registered a fantasy point all season long, he has one catch he's got a couple catches. There you go. He's a running back there. But yeah,
I guess I wouldn't recommend him. But
I'm not playing Ryan Nall.
He's on the slate.
Goofy things happen.
You know what's funny? What happened to Ted Ginn? Ted Ginn's just chilling on this Bears roster. Man. I mean, can you sprinkle a couple if you're playing 150 laps? Can you sprinkle Ted Ginn in there a little bit?
Can you though?
I don't know. You tell me, Mr. Cordell Patterson.
I was looking at his snap count and so he was in the field. The most important thing is opportunity. You have to be in the field. You can't do anything on the sidelines. And he was on the field last week for 11% of the snaps, 20% before that, 43% in week 1. I don't know if he didn't play week 2 or if he might have been a healthy scratch. Is that possible? I don't recall. But I don't think he's a part of their plans. But can Ted Ginn historically, just like, historically, Ted Ginn is the guy that –
historically.
Yeah, he's a best ball guy because he has those weeks every once in a while. But I don't know. I mean, if it happens, I'm in trouble because I don't think I'm rolling it out. But anything can happen in a one-game sample. And it's weird because you do these shows and you feel like you're talking out of both sides of your mouth because it's like, well, you can do this and this can't. But that's all it is. It's theorizing. It's like mapping out potential narratives, mapping out potential game strips. And we got Bobby in the chat. What's up, Bobby? And he's telling us like Nall could win somebody $400K tonight. And that's certainly possible. There is a scenario. It's unlikely, but it's possible. And I'm just not going to be that ambitious, but I understand why somebody else would do it, it sounds like weird advice, but you got to take your stands in certain positions. And for me, I'm not taking one on Nall, but I understand why somebody would play him. I
agree. Made some good points there. It's just a lot of moving parts tonight, right? For a game where nothing is a definite tonight. It'd be nice to get a sure update on Mike Evans. We don't know, but hey, the unknown factor might drive his ownership down a little bit. But yeah, I just, I like Scotty Miller tonight. I know I said in the beginning, and I know we said we like a million different people. We're talking out the side of our mouths, but the guy just moved the chains. He moves the chains, and Brady likes him. I think this would be a grinder game, and I just looking at,
he's got a nice ADOT too.
ADOT too. Yeah.
Short sample, obviously just 4 games or so.
It's fast. He's a lot of bubble screen stuff tonight, I think. He's got wheels.
Yeah, and like we said, obviously they're limited without Godwin, and again, we're not privy. We don't know who's more banged up, Evans or Scotty Miller. I don't know who's more likely to be out there, for 100% of the snaps or 80% of the snaps. I don't know, and that's the problem. It's just kind of sort of a guessing game. Before we step aside and get out of here and make way, let me ask this: Jones or Miller? That's a question here in chat.
Jones or Miller? I like Ronald Jones. I like Ronald Jones. Safer for sure.
Well, safer. Yeah, like more quote unquote guaranteed touches. Generally for the running back as opposed to the receiver. But are you looking for safety? You're not supposed to be. You're supposed to be looking for a ceiling. But of course, They both have a ceiling. Before we step aside and make way and get out of here, tell me this. Tell me the guy as of right now that you have in you're the captain in most of your lineups, or like you're going to be overweight as far as captain.
I'm overweight on Scotty Miller. There's that guy again, right? But like I said, the only thing I'm really entered in tonight, I have 2 optimal kind of single entry things, but I was focusing on Obviously, the big prize pool in DK, $10 entry, 150 max, and I see Scotty. His ownership at the captain spot is minuscule. I think last time I checked, it was under 3% at captain. And I'm all over that, man. That's some serious leverage on a 1-game slate for a guy who has very good air yard market share, has been getting targets without Justin Watson. Now, Watson played 74% of the snaps last week, guys. So
yeah,
and obviously no Godwin. So Miller played through the game last week, played pretty well. So I was more worried about Evans' injury coming into tonight because they're like, listen, the guy's got to warm up so we can see what he has, right? Miller really wasn't
ankle warm-ups, whatever that is. I don't know what that is, but supposedly I guess he passed it. I guess he's fine.
Okay, yeah, but yeah, I'm pretty overweight on Scotty Miller, not gonna lie, and I don't have any Tom Brady captains at the $10 150. I can't recommend that for everything you're playing, but just to get some leverage and I'm able to spread some ownership out elsewhere, that was kind of what I did.
Yeah, of course, if you guys are RG members, you can check out all our stuff that Justin's been showing off throughout the show. If you want to get access to that, you want $5 off your first month. There's a link in chat. Click that link. Get $5 off the Core 4 sports here offered at RG. Should mention. Give me this one before you go. Give me the player that your most bold fade. Now you're probably not going to have 0 of them. But the person you have less than the field then.
I'm light at flex on Montgomery, and it scares me a little. But I think Tampa gets ahead. I think it'll be close. It's not going to be an onslaught, but I think Foles is going to be forced to throw the ball a little more than he'd like to, and anything could happen when Nick Foles airs the ball out. I'll let you know in about 3 hours, Dean, how that works out for me. So I'm a little light on David Montgomery, and obviously I told you about my stand at not playing quarterbacks at the captain spot when I'm playing the big field GPP. So it's kind of where I'm at, Dean.
Yeah, I'm actually excited to watch this game. And I don't like island games, but it's not for me. Red Zone Channel just spoils me. Red Zone Channel is too much fun.
Absolutely.
It's like throw the remote away for 7 hours and just sort of chill. But and I don't get excited. But I feel legitimately excited about what I think is going to be kind of a terrible game. Maybe I'll be surprised. But I'm excited to watch. So I feel good. I feel pretty good about the slate because I think it's pretty obvious what the quote-unquote right plays are. I don't think they're great right plays, but they're right based upon lineup instruction. And I like the pivots as well, too, to be different in tournaments. That said, anything else as far as the slate you want to get out of here?
No, I think we covered a lot of ground. There's a lot of unknown. I wish we had some more of the answers. But hey, stick to your gut, stick to your guns. Don't always get sucked into the group think and play, like you said, the quote unquote right plays. Showdown slates are to get creative, build your own narrative. Everybody watches a lot. Everybody reads a lot. Just stick to what you think is going to be the right call. Don't let other people, if you don't agree with Scotty Miller, then don't agree with Scotty Miller, Yeah. Hashtag play whoever you want, Jordan Cooper.
Oh, there you go. You got to pay him like $12 now. Do you do this every Thursday night? Are you on Thursday and Sundays? I think you're with Tambo normally, right?
Yeah, every Thursday I'm on with Tambo. He had the night off tonight. And then every Tuesday morning, we do, me and TJ Lasig do a preview pod, kind of a real early look at the week ahead. TJ, great DFS mind. Pleasure to do the pod with him every week. And I'm doing some golf every now and then with Tambo's Wednesday lineup review show. So definitely looking forward to working with you more in the future. And it was a pleasure, my man. Good luck tonight.
Yeah, it was fun. I don't know how much more I'll be doing these. I think it's Tambo's spot. I think I was just pinch hitting as far as I know, but I'm happy to do it. I enjoyed it. And I'm looking forward to playing tonight. We thank everybody for watching on YouTube. Feel free to like and subscribe. Again, we'll be on for 3 hours starting Sunday morning at 10:10 on the East Coast. There's multiple shows, obviously, in the channel. Last night, I was with the Pick Six crew with Rebar and Daigle. That was an awesome show as well. And it's more or less the first look because a lot of things we say on Wednesday may change, especially in these times, unfortunately. All right. He's Justin. I was Dean. Thanks for watching. Thanks, D-Train, for producing the show. Good luck tonight. Smash it. We're out of here. Holler. Gotta make some money.